button. And so last week, Quentin talked about it's easier to reduce attachment to material things. But when it comes to relationships, it's more difficult. Yeah, I understand. But today we'll talk about you will be amazed at how little you know the power of your mind. And the only way to find out is to practice meditation. So at first you don't see any noticeable changes, but if you continue doing it, one day you will see the changes, and then over time you will find it possible to do whatever you think is impossible to do. So I think Quentin will be interested in
I think we may have a frozen Luke.
I think so too.
He will be back.
He left me on a cliffhanger. He said Quentin will be so excited. And
now I think Skype changed their policy. So they try to kick out people who talk the most in class. That is teacher.
Frozen.
Yeah, we will have to move our meeting to Google Meet because this happens a lot, right, Quentin?
Yes.
And at first, who is kicking out the teacher? Who is removing the speaker? And so, yeah, and I figure it's Skype's problem. So anyway, let me continue. Anyway, so Quentin will be interested in this article because I've been interested in neuroplasticity. That means your mind has the potential you don't know. So in Mandarin, we talk about how, let's one expression. Water that is constantly dripping, like water drop dripping constantly may wear holes in a stone. That's our idiom. But the keyword is constantly. Like you see just like small stream, but it can form a hole in a big stone. And this is the power of mind, and we have to keep it in mind. We will have Emily talk about this article, give us a summary, and try to look at the power of mind in a scientific way, right? So eventually, like learning a second language, little by little, it will come. And little by little, you will feel it's easier to have less attachment to people you love. Because the best way to love them is to show them how to have like non-attachment, to make themselves happy and to make yourself happy. So if two people have strong attachment to each other, they will tie many knots, and sometimes they struggle, and it's not good. My ideal is to have like independent pillars. You can stand independently, but if you have to work with some other people, you can still spend time happily together. But if you have to separate and you work independently, you can still enjoy your life. So I think the best way to love a person is to show this kind of relationship works better if people have less attachment to each other. Yeah. Okay, I think we will start by talking about the tranquility meditation. And the point of why we talk about overcoming 5 hindrances is that we want to enter a deep state of meditation. And what are some deep states of meditation? People have some names for them. And the most popular 4 are first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, and the fourth jhana. And on top of these 4 jhanas, we have like formless attainment. But it's too high. It's like a PhD. We are just kindergarten. So we will just talk about elementary school, okay, and a junior high. That is the first jhana, second jhana, and third jhana. And let me share my screen. I have a text. I have a passage to show you how what's the prerequisites in order to enter the first jhana. Okay, give me a second. Let me share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Having abandoned these 5 hindrances, defilements of the mind, for example, greed, hatred, delusion, or ignorance, that weaken wisdom, secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, he enters and dwells in the first jhana, which is accompanied by thoughts and examination with rapture. Rapture here is just like joy and happiness born of seclusion. So the first jhana is often referred to as the jhana born of seclusion. And obviously, the conditions are you have to be secluded from sensual pleasures and 5 hindrances and wholesome states. That's how you can enter the first jhana. And if you do not work on them, then it's impossible because it's very scientific. Cause effect. If you don't work on your cause, you will never get this result. So if you don't work on them and you want to enter the first jhana, it's like wishful thinking. He makes the rapture and happiness born of seclusion drench, steep, fill, and pervade this body. So all over your body, so that there is no parts of his whole body that is not pervaded by the rapture and happiness born of seclusion. So that's why many people who have this experience say is 100 times better than sensual pleasures. And because it's like throughout your body, you have this joy and happiness, and you can attain this right here and right now. That is in this life, not talking about happiness in heaven or your afterlife. This is doable right in this life. Okay, let me bring my screen back. Okay, so that's the theory behind the first jhana. And then in order to enter the second jhana, you had to also get rid of like very disturbing thoughts. So you may need to calm your mind even further. And then once you reach the third jhana, you even have to get rid of your joy, because joy is still some kind of excitement in mind. And you don't want that when you are in a very deep meditative state, because it allows you to be calmer, do more. And fourth jhana, you even get rid of happiness. So all equanimity, so calm. And this is the point that you can unleash the power of your mind. And you have not absolute, but a lot of control over your mind. And so you go beyond that, because now we are suffering from physical pain or depression, a lot of mental issues. But if you enter the first jhana, these negative emotion thoughts are gone. Ooh, Liang, I have to mute you first. Sorry. It will. Okay, if you want to speak, you will have to unmute again. Okay. So once we go beyond physical pain, we have joy and happiness. We still have to, overcome this excitement and to reach like perfect calmness in order to unleash the power of your mind. So yeah, that's like a PhD program. But if you know the right direction, you can like move toward the direction slowly. And that's the goal, right? If we know the goal, it's easier. Sometimes we don't know where to start. We get lost in the jungle. If we have a clear path, and okay, so I think if people can do that, I can do that too. But it just takes time and takes efforts, right? We have to work really hard. Like Liang said, work. You have to work hard to get what you want. So laziness is impossible. Yeah. And the second, I need to finish this real quick so that Emily has more time to talk about the article. The third noble truth is called the cessation of suffering. And cessation of suffering is meditators' goal. And you have to ask yourself, why do you practice meditation? For beginners, I want to relax. People say you can relax. And others say, I want to have a healthy body. And some people say, I think it's mysterious, it's cool. Maybe I can have supernormal power. And when I first, start meditation in my early 30s, it was because I saw some amazing performance by someone. And so I started to meditate. I tried to have that kind of power. It's like watching magic show. But not many people have these encounters. It's very rare. I didn't want to talk about it if people just dismiss it, because some people just believe in science and are not open-minded to other kind of mysterious things happening. And so my motivation was not good. I just want to have power. And I just want to make my career more successful if I have more power, right? But that's not a good goal. So as meditators, as a meditation practitioner, I think the right goal is to achieve the cessation of suffering. Because if you have a healthy body, at the age of 95, you don't have a healthy body. Eventually, you will die. So it's not the most important thing to have. You want to relax, but there are so many ways to relax. You don't have to use it as the only option. And supernormal power, if you do not get rid of your negative thoughts, you will use the power to destroy other people's lives. Like some country, they have a lot of advanced high-tech weapons. What do? They use them to control more resources and turn people upside down and turn. Yeah, so I don't think if you have power, but if you don't have positive thoughts, you can destroy the world. So I hope that everybody's goal for meditation is just to deal with their problems. And the problem we have is suffering from aging. And don't tell me that you don't mind being old. It's a good mindset. Like we still have to make the best use of our time alive. But nobody wants to have a broken body because the older you get, the more difficult you stay healthy. So, I mean, that will be suffering eventually, like aging and sickness and the death, and say goodbye to people you love. So this is the issues that the devoted practitioners are dealing with. Not just, oh, I want to relax, I want to have a healthy body. But if you don't like address the innermost negative thoughts in your mind, then I can foresee the problem arising at some point of your life. And when all the conditions are mature for something to happen, and the cause is your negative thought, and then that can happen as a result. So I think we should try very hard to work on our unwholesome roots like greed, hatred, and the delusion. So the cessation of suffering means the cessation of the defilements, the destruction of taints, the destruction of craving, attachment. And you can see Four Noble Truths are two sets of cause and effect. So if you have strong attachment, you have strong desires for something, and you will manifest them in action or speech. And unwholesome karma, unpleasant results. But that's effect and cause. And then the cessation of suffering is the effect of the Fourth Noble Truth. That's the cause. The cause is the way, the path leading to the cessation of suffering. We will spend most time on the way leading to the cessation of suffering. People talk about abstract concepts. A lot of philosophers, they are so good at it, and I'm so tired of them because they only have a blueprint, but they don't tell you how. I need very concrete steps. And the Fourth Noble Truth shows you all the steps from the beginner step and leading to the second floor, leading to the third floor. This is exactly what we need. If you talk about immortality, oh, we can live in immortal, we can have our books that the future generation can read, so we can, we escape mortality. But this, I mean, next generation may not care about your book. And it's just a myth. I mean, I think philosophers' ideas are good, but if they can show us the way, concrete step by step, and also you have to be there yourself. You cannot just imagine things. If you don't have direct knowledge, if you don't have direct experiences, then you have to be a student first. You have to learn from other experienced meditators first. And the philosophers, especially in the West, they just use their mind and they imagine a lot of things. I was a philosophy student, so was Liang. We study a lot of books about philosophy, and there are just a lot of presuppositions, reasoning, but I don't think they contribute to people's well-being or happiness. It's all about possibilities. And I don't want a guy say, oh, it's possible to walk on this path to the mountain top. Oh, no. I want an experienced tour guide. I don't want to get lost in the jungle. I want to experience one. If you don't have direct knowledge, if you don't have direct experiences, I don't trust you. So after I read so many books, it's just garbage. If you don't show me the way, I don't want to spend so much time on reading your stuff. And you just use your imagination. I rely on your guidance. It's not like I'm reading a novel just for entertainment. If you want to be teacher's coach, life coach, you have to have direct experience, period. Okay, I think I'm done. I mean, once you attain Nibbana, that is the cessation of suffering, you become an enlightened being. and you can help other people to get there by showing them how you get there. And that's why we have to follow in the footsteps of experienced people. And that is like, you can see their stories, books, approaches, hundreds of approaches in books. All you need to do is like read the books of experienced teachers and follow in their footsteps and ask questions with fellow practitioners. Okay, Emily, it's all yours.
Okay, hi everybody. So, hi. So I shared an article from Tricycle Magazine on neuroplasticity, and specifically as it pertains to suffering, and they even start to discuss how that all plugs into the cycles of karma. But I just really appreciate the scientific aspects of working with the mind, because particularly being from the West, we just have sort of been conditioned to really value concrete evidence and knowledge over the esoteric. And so it's hard sometimes to apply the esoteric knowledge without that information. So I find it particularly interesting and very liberating. And so Luke asked me to talk a little bit about the article, but if you aren't familiar with the term neuroplasticity, it just basically means the ability for the brain to change through experience. And there is a revered neuroscientist from the early 1900s, when so much amazing science was happening, Donald Hebb, and he has the famous statement, "The neurons that fire together wire together." And so thinking about how the brain works, when our cells are repeatedly activated at the same time, multiple cellular structures, they start to become associated with one another and create grooves in our brain, or pathways. And these pathways are even further solidified by chemical responses. So the release of dopamine, or the release of adrenaline, or the release of other more positive chemicals, not the drug-oriented chemicals. And when we repeatedly experience things, or we frequently experience things, these neuroassociations at the cellular level create such deep grooves that our thoughts and our actions become written on the brain. And the brain is so smart that it is very energy efficient, and it takes the path of least resistance. So what's interesting is where all of this intersects with suffering is that our perceptions, emotions, thoughts, behavioral responses, every time you talk to your mom, and I speak out of my own experience, and she says something that triggers me, this is, a neural pathway that's been carved for 44 years of my life. And these patterns we just repeat over and over again. The most interesting aspect of the article to me was that when we have a repeated similar experience with unique attributes, our brain is so hardwired for efficiency that it only categorizes the commonalities of that experience. So for example, if I'm speaking to my mom and she's coming from a place of kindness and love, but because I'm programmed to be annoyed at her just for speaking, or for saying something in a particular tone of voice, I perceive her intent through my brain's, categorization of the commonalities of all prior experiences, and it just dismisses the unique attributes. And this is really what creates delusion, because our perception is really not the true nature of reality at all. And that was just such a fascinating aspect of this article for me, was just really having that sort of explained how our brain misses the good stuff and helps us see how our perception is not the true nature of things. And, really only through meditation can we start to see these patterns. And that's kind of the first step as it pertains to working with neuroplasticity, is through meditation, seeing our patterns in habitual responses. So first noticing, and then beginning to interrupt them. And I was actually listening to a podcast while I was cooking dinner tonight, and the philosopher who was talking, she was a philosopher, but she was talking about how she works with neuroplasticity to eradicate negative emotions, and she interrupts them mid-experience. So she brings this awareness even to her waking moments, and disassociates herself from that emotion right in that moment to help unwind it and not carve the expression into her brain. And so once we can start to interrupt them, then we can bring more intention to our response, like she was explaining, and start to carve new paths. And was really the essence of the article. And the coolest part too, and I know Luke will love this, is that through recent neuroscience, they've discovered, in part because they've been studying these amazing capabilities that meditation can bring to the brain, that this neuroplasticity is possible throughout a person's entire lifespan. So age is not affected by our ability to rewrite or reprogram the mind. And that is just such a powerful bit of knowledge. Yeah, and so that explains the article. There's a whole other aspect about karma as well that adds another layer of complexity to it. But for the purposes of understanding the correlation of neuroplasticity and meditation, that really sums it up quite nicely.
Yeah, that's why we need to renovate our infrastructure. We need to build new roads, wider roads leading to good thoughts. Yeah, I want Quentin to respond first because he is running short. Mute.
I was trying to multitask a little bit and send my message to Meet on Google Meet, so sorry about that. But yeah, I think that this is probably one of the most interesting aspects that I find with this whole study, and neuroplasticity, especially just that, I mean, our brains can actually change and change their pathways to be more positive. And I think I was reading something before that was similar to what you were saying, but a little bit different, and just that the amazing amount of information that our brains have to process through both visual and audio cues, that it's impossible for it to exactly decipher everything. So it has to group things. It has to group these commonalities because it has no other way to get through the immense amount of information. And this is a wonderful thing that our brain does, but it can cause us a lot of problems if it's grouping things in not the appropriate way. So, I just find this so interesting. And I think one thing that I really took from this, and what I've been trying to do, and even did it today, is really trying to identify those times when I know that I'm either having a maybe thinking about something the wrong way, or maybe I need to think about something. Maybe my way is not the wrong way, but think about it from a different perspective, and really starting to maybe try to examine why I'm having a reaction to something that I'm having. Because even though I haven't quite got to the part in my practice where I can keep myself from having these reactions, I'm at least starting to try to identify that, I just felt this way. Why is that? And what could I do to maybe keep this feeling from reoccurring in the same circumstance next time? So I think that's very interesting, for sure.
Yeah, that's good. Introspection, yeah, leads to personal growth. Okay, I saw Steve just turn on his camera. So, Steve, is it possible for you to talk now, or?
Yeah, no problem. I'm just working, so I just stepped outside. I really like that whole thing about like the neural pathways. It's learned behavior. Obviously, what is behavior? The thought. What is thought? It synapses. It's just so interesting because like you said, 44 years old. I'm 44 years old. 44 years of like neural pathways that have just like led the wrong way. And like, but the beauty of being human is like we can change that. Meditation, even just knowledge of it. Beautiful. I like it. That's all I got.
Yeah, you can build new roles. That's good. That's
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So Rick.
Thanks. Yeah, it is wonderful to know that we can improve ourselves at a very fundamental level, and we're not necessarily stuck in our ways. It's nice to learn that. One experience I had is kind of funny, this little story of how the brain works was when I learned French. Did I already tell this story here? I don't know. I don't know. The funny story is that in high school I'd learned some Spanish, and so then when I in college got my French degree, and I went to France, which is where I learned most of my French, was actually being there to begin with. Once I could actually speak with people, in a cafe or something and actually have a conversation, I would get people that would say, "Are you Spanish?" And I'd be, "No, why?" "Well, you speak French like a Spanish person." So my brain was using the same neural pathways, and I learned that at the time, that once you've learned a second language, the next language you add to it, your brain goes, "Oh, this isn't my normal language. I use this route to speak the language." So my fourth language, I don't know how I'll sound. Like a French Spanish person.
How long did you stay in France?
Just 1 year.
Just 1 year. Okay.
Yeah. It took probably 6 months before I could actually communicate. But the brain will adapt. It is pretty amazing.
Interesting you say that, because Liang also studied in France and in Poland. So this is why he is so open-minded. He is open to new ideas. At his age, I don't see many people like him. They still embrace new ideas, talking about new possibilities. Liang, please.
Little story, Luke, very quickly, apropos to what Rick is talking about. Hello, everyone, by the way. Someone said to me the other day, why do you consider yourself so young? And I said, when I was 30 years old, I started a business. And by the time I was 31, I realized that money was illusory and we could have lots of the stuff if we wanted, or none of the stuff. So it's up to me how I perceive the world, financial wealth, that is, right? So I think just two quick things, Luke. I think one, I watched a program the other day called Closer to Truth. It's a PBS series, probably seen it, and they were discussing how the mind actually heals the body in most cases, right? And I think that's very, very true. And the second thing I think about, in regards to meditation, I think that most people, I would think, they want to have some connectivity. I mean, yes, the material things in the world, sure, those things are important. Stress, frustration, anxiety, sure. But I think most people want to have some connectivity with what is. And what is, as Emily was saying, is a lot more than this perception that we have here. And so I think the true meditators, the people that discuss real happiness, are discussing this concept of happiness in a linguistic way that the average person, including myself, doesn't really identify with. I mean, I can have euphoria over a given moment, but I don't think I understand this intrinsic sense of what the great masters once again are talking about, you know. So I think that's what you're touching on today. I think we all want a cessation of pain and suffering, sure. And as we do get older, the body does change somewhat. Not a lot, Luke. You know, I'm 15 years older than you, and it hasn't changed a lot, and it's had its bumps and bruises and everything, but I have a very positive attitude to body. I have a friend that's 91, drives, better historian than I am. So I don't see this as a degenerative process. I see it as more as an ascendant process towards nirvana in that sense. But always good stuff.
Hats off to you.
Yeah, I think it's possible for everyone.
I don't think I can still drive at the age of 90. But I think you see the percentage. I mean, the majority, yeah, you are blessed if you have a healthy body, but not many people. What I'm trying to say is that a lot of people suffer from aging. That's for sure. But if we can make the best use of our time alive and conscious, we try our best. But it's no control over how healthy you will be when you are aging. That's my point.
But if we go back 100 years, Luke, the average man died at 23, the average woman at 26. So I mean, so I think we have to, I think this ageism, which is a great danger in all of us, right? I think it's something we have to throw away because it's no longer the model that we can exist with any longer. Really, you know, I mean, when I was 16, I thought I'd be dead at 65, to put it mildly, you know? I mean, that was long. I mean, I thought the coffin would be already laid out at 50 and I'd be laying in it at 55 and dead at 65, and it hasn't happened. The opposite has happened. I can honestly say I'm smarter today, whatever that means, than I was at 35, for sure, for sure. So I don't know, we'll see, you know, but thank you, Luke, always great stuff, appreciate it.
Okay, I wonder how old Rick is. Are you in your 40s?
Me? I'm 52.
Oh, I'm older than you. So we are young. We are young.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
And youngest is Liang. Yeah, I mean his heart is he remains young forever. I like it. I like it. Okay, I need to join Quentin's class to assist him in class. So I will see you next week. Enjoy the week. Okay. Bye bye.
Bless you all. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Bye
everyone.
Bye, Steve.
bye.